be able to introduce Peter Baker and Susan Glasser to you. Last year, when I left this homestead, and we always have this portion of our meeting dedicated to current political thinkers, I immediately contacted Peter and Susan to be able to come. Considering their schedules and the responsibilities they have for the news and the presidential primary still going on, I feel incredibly fortunate that they could be here with us today. I know Peter from his reporting days covering Fairfax County and Richmond. He was the first person to go from Washington Times to the Washington Post. He left Richmond to cover the White House, met and married Susan. They both went to Russia to be the post-Moscow bureau chiefs for 4 years, and they certainly are tuned into what's going on there today. They came back just in time for their birth of their son, Theo. They have authored Kremlin Rising, Vladimir Putin's Russia and the End of the Revolution. Incredibly important now as we realize the newspaper. Susan graduated from Harvard, worked at the Roll Call, and has been with the Post for 10 years. Peter has unbelievably been with the Post for 20 years. He's also the author of The Breach, Inside the Impeachment and Trial of William Jefferson Clinton. So, on to polls, pundits, politics, covering elections at home and abroad. Susan Glasser, Peter Baker.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? Morning. Beautiful day here in Virginia. I'm so glad to be back. I'm a little worried, as Maggie said, this is the political thinkers part of the program, so I should be finding. Instead, you've got us. But it's a real honor for us to be here today. You know, this is the group that really makes democracy work. We were just talking about that. We were listening to the previous panel. It's really very heartening to hear issues like these that you're talking about today being hashed out. The dedication and integrity and the hard work that you bring to your job every day, and particularly in a year like this, should be appreciated by everybody in America. And I think that we're going to see the results of your labors by the end of this year. So we congratulate you for an extraordinary year's work that you already had and are about to have ahead. This is a special treat for me to talk here today because I am a Virginian, born and bred. I grew up in Fairfax County and went to Fairfax County Public Schools. Maggie said I spent the first 10 years of my journalistic career covering Virginia, first in Fairfax and later in Richmond. And Maggie and I have known each other, as she says, since the 1980s. And she's been running all sorts of campaigns on the highways and byways of Fairfax. And some things haven't changed and some things have, but Maggie doesn't. She's always terrific, and I'm really thrilled to be her friend for so long. So thank you for having us. Now, my wife and I will speak in tandem. I'll speak a little bit first, and she'll speak, and then we'll take questions. We're better at taking questions than speaking. We're better on that side of the microphone, quite honestly, than this side of the microphone, so I can be there with us. We did meet at the Post. Susan was my boss, actually. She was the deputy national editor in charge of national investigative news. She started 1 week before the name Monica Lewinsky came up. Monica Lewinsky actually brought us together. I was the White House correspondent, and suddenly we found ourselves in the throes of a really big story. Susan ended up being the editor, shepherding all those stories into the paper and directing our coverage for 13 months through the impeachment and trial. And I don't know what it was, all talk of thongs and whatever, you know, Star Wars, but somehow we ended up getting together. We all said we're the only good thing that ever came out of that scandal. So. And today she's actually my boss again. She's now the assistant managing editor in charge of national news. She's in charge of all the coverage that the Washington Post does of the United States domestically. She has 70 people on her staff and bureaus from New York to Los Angeles, and her main goal this last year has been to direct coverage of this most extraordinary campaign season. She really built up a whole new team, built up a whole new way of covering this campaign, and she'll talk about that with you in a few minutes. You know, today as it happens, as Maggie mentioned, it's actually election day. Not in Ohio or Texas, but actually in Russia, where we were for 4 years. And it's an extraordinary day, actually. The contrast couldn't be starker. Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, is required by the Constitution to step down after 2 terms. He's doing so. But in doing so, he's figured out a way to hang on to power. He's put up his own protege, a man named Medvedev, a man who has no independent existence outside of Vladimir Putin, as a candidate for president. And he has announced he will be Medvedev's prime minister if Medvedev were to win today. Will Medvedev win today? I don't think you'll have the suspense that you might have had on February 12th or tomorrow or on Tuesday in Ohio and Texas. The Kremlin has cleared the field for him. They intimidated or pushed out through corrupted processes any other possible opponent. They put in candidates who are, quote, opponents who are actually on the Kremlin payroll to give the veneer of democracy. They made sure that television tells you nothing, good things about Medvedev and nothing about anybody else. And the whole machinery comes together today without debates, without forums, without pesky reporters asking penetrating questions about candidates' policy positions. It's just a ratification of Vladimir Putin's choice. And, you know, this is what we saw developing in the 4 years that we were there, and it's come to culmination today. It's not democracy by competition, it's the Kremlin's feet out. There was a Russian politician named Grigory Yavlinsky that we spoke to a lot. He was a, quote, Democrat, small d, in Russia, fighting against the authoritarian system. He was asked about the state of Russian democracy. Is it dead? He told an old Soviet joke. He said, well, you remember the old Soviet man in the ambulance, and the ambulance driver says, well, we're going to the morgue, and the guy pops up in the back of the ambulance and says, well, I'm not dead. He says, we're not there yet. Why do I tell you all this? Because the Russian election today, for people who were there to watch it, brings home how lucky, how extraordinary, how blessed we are here in this country. We have a very flawed system. Everybody here knows. Everybody can point to the various things that we would try to do differently. Are we inventing a new system from scratch? But by and large, this election year, and especially in contrast to countries like Russia, tells us, you know, what a healthy, vibrant, extraordinary system we have. Not perfect, but extraordinary and vibrant, competitive. The most competitive election day in my lifetime, probably most of your lifetime, really actually the first election, think about it, 80 years. 80 years without an incumbent president or vice president running. It was a wide open race on both sides of the aisle. Usually you have one side or the other, maybe very hot heat, but not on both sides. This year, everything is open. Everything is wild. And while the Russian election is 100% predictable, this one has been anything but, right? If you had asked us 8 months ago who were going to be the nominees in the fall, most people would have said, well, Rudy Giuliani and Hillary Clinton, right? As of Wednesday, we may know that may not be the case. Certainly on one side, it's already not the case. So what's going to happen 8 months from now when we go to the general election? Anybody who tells you they know, they're wrong. Don't listen to them. We have no clue. All the rule books are being rewritten this year. History tells us you cannot win President of the United States out of the womb. You cannot win as an African American. You can't win, by the way, age 72. You wish you're going back a generation. No, we don't go back a generation when we pick presidents. You know, you can't win it. Obviously, the candidates who dropped out now, the Mormon, you can't win if you're a social liberal like Giuliani. You can't win if you're running on a poverty platform like John Edwards. You know, everybody running this year trying to rewrite the rules, and somebody actually will. And that's an extraordinary thing in its own right. We're breaking out of some of the old molds of politics, which everybody had to stay within very narrow lanes. And we're trying different things. We're trying different people. We're trying different approaches. And where that will lead us, we don't know. But, you know, what we've seen already so far, what you all saw here in Virginia on February 12th, has been an extraordinary outflow of interest and participation by voters. Still not what everybody would want it to be, obviously. You could do the numbers and say, well, still in the end, only X% of the population voted. But compared to where we've been in the last few years, compared to all those doomsday predictions we've been seeing over the last 20 years I have as a political reporter about how Americans don't care anymore, and the electorate's checking out, and fewer people are voting. This year, they're all coming out. And it's an amazing thing to watch. And it's fun to participate in as a reporter,